Міністерство та відомство долучаються до нової системи. Я запрошую до слова Максима Нефедова, заступника міністра економічного розвитку та торгівлі, а також Олександра Стародубтсева.
And also Oleksandr Starodubtsev, who is head of the department responsible for this. Good morning. Thank you everybody who's here. Thank you everybody who watches our briefing. We would like to very briefly and in a concise way tell you about the steps that we undertake where the reform of public purchases is concerned, public procurement. First of all, why this is an important topic? Because last year, state public procurement amounted to almost 150 billion hryvnia because they are held by almost 25,000 tender procurement commissions all over Ukraine, starting from very numerous ones like in National Bank and Energoatom, and ending with very small units like district clinics and kindergartens. It's almost 2 million specific contracts. I think that you maybe better than me know about the number of reproachments addressed at the public procurement procedures. There's a lot that you can think of, starting from chicanery and embezzlement, ending with non-professionalism and losses because the competition is limited, and bigger amount of traders are not allowed into the market. This does not mean that the main problem is just corruption, that the problem is in 10 or 100 or 1,000 non-conscious purchasers who do everything in a wrong way. The problem is that this scheme in Ukraine is rather archaic and it physically limits the competition. Even those purchasers who would like to hold a maximally transparent tender meet the problem that a number of private companies just don't see any sense in participating in public procurement procedure. And for many of them, this is a rather costly, long and undefined procedure where they do not believe that they can win without being friends with the head of tender commission, where there will be a long and complicated process of procurement, after which they will be trying to get their money for half a year, and then they will be checked and inspected for another half a year by law enforcement bodies. And this leads to the fact that the competition during the procurement is limited, and the lower competition is, the higher prices are. And we're talking here about an ideal case when there is a desire to conduct the procedure in an honest way. One of the reasons is that in Ukraine, as opposed to almost any other country of the world, the procedures all are in a paper format. We even wanted to bring here a pile of paper which would have shown you how much paper you have to fill in to provide for procurement. This is hundreds and hundreds of pages, starting from the preparation of tendering documentation and finishing with applications of participants and different information certificates and data references that they can have to bring. As a result, you have a pile of papers approximately this high. And this is all in order to make something happen. So this is the state of the things as they are at the moment. It is rather regrettable, archaic, and outdated. How we plan to solve this situation, and what is the main aim that the ministry sets for itself during the reform? First of all, this is the making the accessibility, the access to business easier. This is the major factor that helps to save on state purchases and to lower the level of corruption and bribery, and also getting more goods and services of a high quality. How do we provide for this simplicity? First of all, we would like to radically decrease the number of documents that the companies file in to take part in procurement. We would like to transfer most of the documentation into soft copies, and we would like to provide anyone, starting from competitors and journalists and finishing with an ordinary citizen, to see the results of all the procedures, all the applications that have been filed after the procedure ends, so that we have an absolutely transparent scheme where you can see who offered what and what were the criteria to arrive at a decision. Of course, we would like most of those processes to be electronic. First of all, to save on those 30 centimeters on that foot-high pile of paper, which would save several trees for our state. And of course, we have a economically weightier aim to make this process cheaper for the tender committee and for the supplier. As the collection, gathering of all those documents is, first of all, a tax on those who sells and a tax on those who have to analyze all this, on those who are buying. This does not mean that electronic means are a panacea that can solve all the issues. This is just a means that will make control easier and will make access easier for smaller participants, and even for those, and more than that, for those who are in other regions. For instance, a company from Ternopil wants to buy paper, and you are a entrepreneur from Odessa. How would you know about this, and how would you transport all your paper applications to Ternopil, where you have never been? How can you check that everything happens in a transparent and honest way? Of course, these are questions that have no answers. However, when all this is in one single electronic system, you can just search using the code of the commodity that is being purchased, and then in an electronic way you can file your application and tender, and after some time you get the notification that you have won or someone else have won. This is a general and rather non-specific dream that we want to arrive at as a result of the reform, and now I would like to dwell on what's been done. First, we started when our team came to the ministry was the personnel reform, because without staff, without personnel, any movement, you know that the staff decides all, and we began with inviting Oleksandr Starodubtsev to head the public procurement regulation department. He is a well-known volunteer in this sphere. He was at the source of the creation of an absolutely unique project, Transparent, which is really unique in world terms, where the efforts of public society activists, experts and volunteers who work for free, who invest their time and reputation, and also private business that supports this initiative and provides access to their database of sellers who are interested in popularizing this idea. And yes, the state which takes part in this by issuing legal regulations. Then, secondly, we with central bodies of power do support in every way the initiative of the pilot project Transparent in before threshold procurement. Almost half of 250 billion was bought before a certain threshold. This is up to 100,000 hryvnia. This is not a huge amount where you can do without procurement procedures, complicated procedures. So the number of and a huge number of state purchases, procurers have joined the ProZorro transparent system in order to take part in this procurement scheme. And this means that this system is comfortable for, first of all, users, user-friendly. And this system saw tender procurements for almost 12% from the starting amount. And we think that this is a rather decent result, as we're talking about a pilot, an experiment, and experiments can and usually do provoke resistance and mistakes on our part as well. And this is what experiment is for and all about. And if we could save 12% out of 250 billion hryvnia, this is a rather significant addition to the state budget that can be used for very interesting purposes. And then we have some success that we're very proud of. Last week, a directive number 416 of the Cabinet of Ministers was published that allows the Ministry of Defense to conduct an experiment with procurement to the amount that exceeds 100,000 hryvnia. And this means that within the Ministry of Defense, we can scale up this experiment and can spread it to bigger lots. And there will be purchases in the system to the tune of tens of millions, or probably even hundreds of millions of hryvnias. And if we can scale this system up to a bigger amount of trade, both in quantitative and qualitative dimensions, this means that we will be able to spread it to the level of the entire Ukraine. As far as legislation is concerned, we plan to work on two draft laws, one of which is already ready and it went through public discussion, and one we are just working on. First is pertains to every procurement, both electronic and paper, and done on paper. This is draft law aimed, first of all, at deregulation. For instance, what all the participants were asking for quite a lot of time, post-qualification, meaning that the entire amount of all those certificates, like a testimony that managers and owners were not brought to criminal responsibility, will be collected by not every participant, but only by a winner in the procurement tender. I think this is a very significant lowering of difficulties, and it will help to raise the level of competition. Then the electronic procurement. We do believe that electronic means will allow us to effect this reform very swiftly, and then they will allow us to broaden the circle of participants, and it will allow us to have a more comfortable, significantly more comfortable means of control. that will be used by activists and public who will be able to comfortably and swiftly see the results in real time practically, and who will see that who buys a Mercedes for themselves and who buys a Mercedes at a price that you can buy 5 Mercedeses for. And now I pass the floor to Oleksandr, who will tell you in more detail about the state of the reform at the moment and what you can expect from us in the nearest future. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am a civil servant. I've been a civil servant for just a month. Before that, for more than a year, I worked with public procurements as an activist. And what have we been spending the whole year for? We were looking at the best practices of the world. We were looking at what we have in Ukraine, what problems we have, and half a year we have been negotiating on discussing what type of system we would like to have. We talked to different private platforms. We were convincing them so that they finance the project, and we were working on a program code. And now we have many who joined the project. The next slide has the general information about the project, and that's what I've been doing for almost a year. For a month, I've been working on personnel issues. I came to the ministry, and that's my first experience of working as a civil servant. And now I call upon all my colleagues who were the activists, and I tell them, come and join the ministry, because it's easy to sit and write something in Facebook, but they need to come and start working in the ministry. Now, what we believe should be the system of procurement in Ukraine. We need to look at what we have. We have this project, Transparent, Prozoro. I was one of the coordinators of that last year. We now requested the EBRD to audit it so that we understand what's happening from the point of view of international best practices. And we have an official portal in Ukraine, which is in not very good condition because of management. The people were appointed in 2010, and there are we now have some criminal cases about some of the tenders in the past. And this institution was giving was providing the database on public procurements for to the different NGOs when they requested data, but that lasted for 6 months. The information was just monopolized, and there was no access to it, even though every citizen has the right to look into such database. So now there's an audit going on there, and we need now to think about how to join these two platforms, Prozoro, Transparent, and Public Portal. Also, there's a new wave in Europe. We want to sit together with Europeans and discuss what is their understanding and our understanding of that. And then on the 27th of May, several people from Brussels will arrive. There will be local people. We will sit and discuss the issue of what should be the public procurement in Ukraine. Also, the electronic appeal is another issue. It depends not so much on the Ministry of Economy. without the electronic appeal, it will be difficult to create the well-functioning system of public procurements, electronic public procurements, because a person should understand clearly what is the system of appeal, and also what we call the comprehensive system of information protection. It's in Ukraine we have an over-regulated approach to protection of information. There's a special committee on state communications, and we now basically Prozora, this project, transparent, is without the state being involved. We have it physically on Amazon, and we now demonstrate how we can operate based on the best world practices. Also, we analyze how much time and resources we need to build a new system. We also have some joint understanding with Europeans of what should the public procurements look like in Ukraine, and also we will launch it. And the next slide shows there's a calendar which shows what our plans are. Parallel to that, there's a preparation to the to Ukraine joining the special protocol of WTO. That is very important event. For us, it's like a sign of quality. Once we are in this club, and this gives plenty of advantages to Ukraine. That means the access of our producers to state procurements of other countries, systems of state procurements of other countries, and that also means that we satisfy all the international requirements. And also we left talking about personnel issues. We left some people from the past, but we also recruited many new people. We have a person with the London MBA and other good people. It is important to change the culture of the Department of Public Procurements. We believe we have done that already, but we will continue doing it. Thank you. And thank you for this very interesting presentation. We do not have representatives of the civil service coming to us and talking about KPIs, talking about exact dates, but we have done that in Ukraine, so we appreciate it greatly. Any questions?
Будь ласка.
Could you tell us, please, as far as I understood, the Prozora transparent system works in a testing regime, but will you, when trying to involve budget organizations to take part, have you met any resistance and sabotage on the part of officials? What were the manifestations of this sabotage and resistance, and how you were able to overcome it? Look, this is a pilot project. Sometimes we were able to overcome, sometimes not, but in general this project was devised to palpate how the electronic system could work in Ukraine. It was created for voluntary customers. For instance, the Ministry of Defense and Energoatom are huge customers. The Infrastructure Ministry has several such customers. They came on themselves to us. We told them about it and we built the system. Then, after the system was presented and introduced at the National Council for Reforms, and the president said to switch over to it, you know, some ministries have just issued resolutions that everybody should go to the under threshold purchases. But and there were a lot of entities who were dissatisfied there. But in a way, it all settles down on itself. For instance, is it easier to work with paper mail or electronic mail? We don't see a huge sabotage there. There is some dissatisfaction, some skepticism, but we do believe that in time, when people learn to work with this system, it will all settle down. What about the draft laws? I don't know who will be answering, but those two draft laws, are they already in the parliament? What's their state at the moment? And have you been in consultations with MPs? As of course there are different MPs who have their own vision of how electronic purchasing system should develop in Ukraine. The anti-corruption deregulation draft law is at the exit from the Ministry of Economy. It is completely ready, and very soon it will be tabled for discussion at the Parliament. We do ask esteemed MPs to adopt it before they go to summer vacations, and the electronic purchases draft law is at the stage of very active public discussion. We do not even have public hearings, but sooner these are round tables where 50 people would gather, and sometimes there's a very vigorous debate, because yes, you are right, everybody has their own vision of how this has to work. Many MPs and their representatives do take part in this work from the very first day. So I wouldn't tell that this is a document that was developed in somewhere deep in the ministry and then it was published. No, this is rather a result of fruitful cooperation with MPs and public organizations and with a great number of anti-corruption activists, which Transparency International, and we would like to thank very much those companies and central bodies of power who joined the system from the very start. They are, I would say, testing animals on which we stage experiment, and they provide their criticism, and we think that the system should be liked by the customer, and it is, we think it is normal when we don't meet a positive reaction to every idea that we devise. So I hope very much that these draft laws won't cause huge resistance, because we tried to assemble all the positive experience here. I would like also to ask myself some critical questions that I see rather often in Facebook, and maybe there's a maybe it is feasible to answer them in front of a bigger audience. We are being reproached that in Ukraine there's a risk of creating a new tender chamber, which was rather ill-famed, and that this system will lead to a huge market. There will be some intermediaries, huge companies that would earn billions of hryvnias. I would like to assure you that this will not happen. Yes, we do want to use the existing private infrastructure, including those companies in Ukraine that provide for the purchases for huge commercial structures like banks, private holdings, and not to use their IT experience and their personnel and their customer supplier base would be rather strange. But the entire infrastructure, including the purchases base and the module of business analysis, will be transferred free of charge with all the intellectual rights, without any royalties or underwater rocks, from Transparency International to the state. front end and user experience, specific sites that you enter, yes, there can be a lot of them, and we don't see the reason why we should fight competition and devise one absolutely best and absolutely favorite site, a portal through which everybody should work. We want to open access to every one of you. You can open a site. Maybe you will be a good trader. Maybe you will devise some mechanism of guarantees for suppliers or co-financing of purchases, procurement. Maybe you'll find such a possibility, but this is absolutely, if you can find a possibility to take money on a voluntary basis from everyone, no, we wouldn't like to take money from the budget, but you have to understand that electronic system is a cheap system.
It's much cheaper than the paper one that's existing now. Just transferring from paper to electronic format, we will save dozens of million hryvnias. We evaluate that the cost, the annual cost of that system will be 10 million hryvnias a year. Even that is too much. But just imagine, we charge the winner some money. Every winner, like on in the internet, will have to pay something to, like eBay. So we need maximum 10 million hryvnias. Every winner has to pay 10 hryvnias, for example. Do we believe that that's some additional income? We believe not. From our point of view, that's normal practice, where there is the winner of the tender who will participate in funding the system. That is my answer. If you want to make sure that the system works transparently, that there will be no like we call buffers, where certain things are accumulated, then not. The system will be open. The program product, the software product is also accessible to everyone. So we are open for any criticism. So, because we don't have much time left, we have to close our press conference, but I hope that this draft law will succeed, because in the past there were some drafts developed, but then we were waiting for half a year till the draft becomes a law. So we hope that this time everything will be happening much faster. Thank you.